Hey, welcome to another episode of Spritz of Wisdom. Let's kick off today's episode like we always do with my sip of the week. These are my highs and lows from my previous week living here in South Italy. So let's begin with the highs. Of course, I have to start with this. Last night, we went to see Luci di Artista in Salerno. These are the famous lights that are installed every single year by renowned artists all across the city of Salerno, and they stay up until the beginning part of January. Now, this event attracts Italians from all across Italy because it's incredibly beautiful. And I have to be honest with you, I was blown away by some of the installations yesterday. However, I did feel a little bit disappointed because parts of the city felt like it was quite lacking. And also, some of the lights hadn't been switched on yet. And this morning, I discovered why. I did think it was a bit early, actually. The lights were switched on Friday, so it was the 14th of November. Now, normally they're switched on around the 20th, something similar to this, of November. Now, the reason they were switched on a week earlier is because next weekend we have the local elections. And so they didn't want to coincide the switch on of the lights with the local elections. So that was the reason why. And so as a result, some of the lights hadn't been connected, and there are 4 more installations still to be installed. I filmed an incredible vlog that's going to go live on my YouTube channel at Miss Brittany on Wednesday. Go ahead and watch that because I promise you it's going to blow you away. But there will also be another short to come at a later date where I'll film the remaining installations and lights that were not switched on. So you'll get to see everything this year. But it's been incredible. It was so wonderful to go back. The last time that I saw this display was in 2021 because, of course, we moved to Palermo. So it was just an incredible moment and really, really beautiful. So that was a huge high for me. Second high for me over the past week has been the fact that I finally landed on a logo and tagline for my brand, Ms. Brittany. This has been so much harder than I thought it would be because I didn't know how to brand myself, I guess you can call it. But I'm really leaning into the honesty and the authenticity that I deliver on my channel to do with life in Italy, because there are hundreds of channels and accounts and whatnot on the internet that will sell you the dream of Italy. And whilst it's wonderful to watch those and they can also provide a sense of escapism as well, it's also really important to know that that is only one aspect of life here. And I've always been really, really conscious of the fact that it's important to give this balanced perspective, especially if you want to live in this country. Now, some of those channels will tell you, oh, there's too much negativity. Let's just talk about the positive aspects of Italy. But what they're not telling you is the hardships that they're facing and the struggles and the challenges. And so you see exactly what social media is often well known for, a curated, edited version of life here. I'm all about sharing with you the reality. And so I'm really leaning into it with my new tagline, no fantasy, just life in Italy. And I love it because it's exactly what my content is about. So that has been a really good high for me from the past week because I'm finally getting clearer on how I'm shaping my brand and building it as we move into 2026. So it's a very exciting time. Now, lows of the past week, well, weather related. I'm such a Brit. This is all we talk about in the UK is the weather. I've seen that we have upwards of 14 days of rain coming, starting from this evening. Honestly, you would think I'd be used to the rain coming from London, but I'm not. I think, okay, a couple of days of rain can be nice, but 2 weeks of rain. I mean, this is the reason we went to see Luci di Artista yesterday, because I never normally go on the opening weekend. It's usually crazy busy. And if they have any technical glitches, it usually happens then, right? But I had to go because I was like, I don't want to go and see the lights when it's raining. So for this reason, we kind of moved our plans around. But in a way, it's okay because next weekend I'll just do the Christmas tree instead. Love this time of year. But yeah, that's my low of the week. The weather is pretty dreary at this time of year. It makes filming outside really difficult. But it is what it is. We are in late November. I can't complain. It has felt like spring right up until about now. So there we are. Okay, let's get into the full pour of today's episode. And today we're talking about knowing when to let things go, because I think so many people struggle with this for lots of different reasons. And because my life is incredibly synchronistic, I've been reflecting on this, observing it in different shapes and forms, and also reading about it through books and social media content. So there's a bit of a theme here that's going on. But essentially, the reason I wanted to talk about this here is because some of you might be listening to this, watching this in whatever form that you're doing so, and your dream is to move to Italy. But you see, it's not always easy to make this dream a reality. And sometimes you might have invested a lot of time, effort, energy, and maybe even money into the research and into deciding whether or not this could be for you. only to continuously be hitting your head against a wall and not making much progress. Now, when people arrive at this point, usually they do one of two things. They either continue to plow money, time, energy, whatever it is, into the process because they don't want to give up. They believe that it's their destiny, it's what they should be doing. Or they decide, okay, maybe this is not working for a reason. Maybe I need to take the lessons from it and put my attention elsewhere. So it's usually one of these two areas that people fall into. But I notice a lot that people tend to continue to hold on to things that are no longer right for them, maybe because they have had this as a part of their life for such a long time. Now, I see this with businesses, especially, and this is something that I've been observing recently, in the sense that you could have a business that has a lot of years of trading behind it, right? It's built up a really solid reputation. It has a lot of years of trading behind it. There are hundreds of these types of businesses here in Italy. However, there comes a point sometimes when that business reaches its expiry date. Either it's no longer relevant to society nowadays, or the business starts to pivot in a different direction. And where it's pivoting is actually proving to be more successful. But because people don't want to let go of what they've built up and the heritage and the reputation that they've built, they try to juggle two things at the same time. But what ends up happening is that one has to give, and it either gives because the person decides or because it dies by its reputation, right? Because essentially what happens is that when you're pushing through with something that has reached its expiry date, at some point you fall out of love with it. And that shows in the quality of service, in what you're producing, and essentially in the feedback that you receive from your clients. And so it becomes a bit of a sad story because what had a really solid reputation ends up dying by its reputation because people just are no longer happy with the service that they receive. And this is something that I see a lot. And I think sometimes the reason why people don't want to let go of the old and move into the new in whatever way that they may be pivoting towards has a lot to do with ego. Because our ego, in a way, doesn't want us to admit that maybe it's time to let something go. Maybe it's not the best thing to be investing time, money, effort, energy into. Like, you've partially walked away from it, but you don't want to fully let it go because you've put so much effort and work into it. But sometimes you have to know when it's time to go. Because if you continue to hold on to something or continue to pursue something that is not right for you, it's not going to lead you anywhere good. You're only going to ruin and undo all of that hard work that you have put into something, or you're only going to continue to waste your time, effort, energy, money, whatever it may be, on something that is not your destiny. It is not what you should be doing. And your ego really doesn't want that to happen. And so I think, in these situations, we have to accept that there's nothing wrong with saying that something has had its day or something is not the right thing for you. We need to embrace this concept of failure in inverted commas a bit more because that's what it is. That's what it boils down to. People don't want to be perceived as having failed. Oh, that business is closed. It failed. Oh, she's no longer moving to Italy. She failed. But it's not something to be afraid of, and it's not something to view in this way. I'm going to give you an example because I like to watch a podcast called The Diary of a CEO with Stephen Bartlett. And he has a big media company, Flight Story, and he has recruited a head of failure. And that person's role is to experiment and try loads of different things in order to see what works and in order to see what doesn't. And their focus is to try as many things as possible that fail. It doesn't matter how much time, effort, energy, money goes into it. They want to see what doesn't work so they can understand what does work. And that is the most refreshing take on this whole concept that I can possibly think of, because we get stuck sometimes in not wanting to lose face, not wanting to admit that we were wrong, not wanting to admit that what we've invested a lot of energy into perhaps isn't the right thing for us. But I can honestly tell you from personal experience, whenever I've tried to push through with something that doesn't seem to be working, and I've just finally been like, okay, I've just got to stop, I've always been redirected onto something that was far better for me in the long run. And I can look back and be like, that was why I wasn't meant to get X, because I was meant to get Y. And sometimes we just have to step out of the situation a little bit and look at it from a bird's eye view and understand really what the facts of the situation are. If your plan is to move to Italy and you've done everything correct in the sense that you've done your research, you've spent time in this country, you've spoken to the right people, you've experienced a little bit of what life can be like here, and still it's impossible for you to make the move for whatever reason, I think that is telling you something. And there's no shame in being like, okay, maybe Italy is not the country for me. Trust me, it's far worse to continue to push through with a dream like that, live in this country and have a miserable existence. It's far better to admit, okay, it's not the country for me. Let me find the one that is. And it's this. And so I guess I want to stress just how important it is in life, in whatever way, shape, or form it may be for you, to understand what's working in your life and what isn't. And those things that aren't working, is it time to just put them to bed, park them, revisit them later, and instead put your attention into something else? My chin chin of the week for you is exactly that. What do you need to park in your life? Where have you been spending time, energy, attention, but it isn't generating the results or the progress that you had hoped? Is there something more that you can do that's going to help? Or is it just that you're going to be wasting more time, more energy, more resources on something that is not the path you're meant to take anymore? Is it time to pivot? Is it time to embrace that change? Is it time to put that attention into something different that ultimately is going to bring you the life that you desire? This is the most important thing of all. And I promise you, not enough people do it because they let their ego do the talking and they don't take a bird's eye view out and look at the situation from a very pragmatic point of view. Life is not linear. It's not one path. You can take many different roads. In fact, life looks like this messy squiggle, but every single kind of road that you take in life teaches you something. It doesn't have to be that you come up with an idea and then you're automatically successful, or you decide that you want to do something and it happens. In fact, it's honestly very rare that it is as simple as that. Behind the perceived achievements in life are often many disappointments, redirections, course corrections. It's not a straight path. And so I want you to remember this in your life. If something isn't working or it's no longer as successful as it once was, is it time to let things go? Because I promise you, the most successful people in life have learned this concept. They know when it's time to let things go, course correct, and work on what is the best thing for you to focus on. Because I promise you, if you have something that's bubbling away and it's really successful, but you're still holding on to something from the past because of its legacy, I promise you, you are neglecting that new opportunity. It could be 20, 30, 40x what it is now, if only you put your full heart and soul into it instead of clinging to the past. I will see you in the next episode.